Picture it, it's 2012, you're a gamer, maybe a fan of the Sly Cooper games, and BAM! It's leaked that that movie is in production. Found out after a NeoGAF user discovered listings for Sony Interactive Entertainment franchises in a film financing database. You're probably pretty hyped. Or you have no idea what Sly Cooper is. Sly Cooper is a platform stealth video game series about a thieving raccoon and his gang doing crime. Think Rocket Raccoon or Ratchet and Clank, except different, with a whole new art style and a cult following that probably hates that I made that comparison. Fast forward a couple of years to January 28, 2014, and it was officially announced by Sony Pictures, a video game adaptation, but one entirely done in CGI. And considering the notable, barren release schedule of Sly Cooper games, you can definitely expect it made a rumble for the niche corner of the internet that is Sly Cooper fans. I mean, this is probably one of my most requested cancelled topics, or at least it's the one I've been getting for like the longest time. Oops. We're doing it now. Thank you, Diego, Aaron, King64, Spaceboy, Fitzfilm, and The Freak. Oh god, that's from 2020, for the suggestion. So, the announcement of the Sly Cooper movie came from one Brad FOXHOVEN of Blockade Entertainment, who were not unfamiliar with video game movies. In fact, it was their go-to, previously working on their recreations of Heavenly Sword and the Ratchet and Clank movie. See, it's not a heinous crime to call it relevant, right? And this process was a little ahead of the crowd, considering now in the 20s, we're soon to be bombarded with all sorts of video game adaptations. The Last of Us, Mario, FNAF, Tetris, so it's certainly not out of place. The Sly Cooper project was set to be directed by Kevin Monroe, who was also a previous worker directing the Ratchet and Clank film, as well as tackling TMNT and Dylan Dog. And the animation company who would be carrying out this prompt would be Rainmaker Entertainment, who also did, what do you know, Ratchet and Clank and projects with a very different art style to that. Octonauts, Madagascar, A Little Wild, Barbie, The Guava Juice Show. This is interesting. And of course, Sony was involved. They're the ones pushing for much of this modern adaptation craze anyway, but they too were invested back here. As one of our most storied and fan-favorite PlayStation franchises, we are excited to see the story of Sly premiere on the big screen for the first time. We have a great partnership with Rainmaker and Blockade Entertainment, and we're looking forward to seeing Sly reimagined in a full-feature movie to offer both fans and newcomers alike a chance to become reacquainted with one of our most beloved heroes, said the Senior Director of First-Party Games Marketing at Sony, Assad Quizzlebash. God, they really make up these job titles on the spot. Anyway, with the news only just beginning, the film was set for a release in 2016, and even a teaser trailer was released, showing us a cute little sequence of Murray and Bentley, the allies, speeding down the streets as Sly runs along the rooftops, all culminating to donuts. Running out of time for them. Until they steal from the police and start it all over again.
Why can't we just order pizza like normal people?
All the while showcasing their character and chemistry along the way. Sly is the confident rogue one, Bentley the nerdy cautious one, and Murray a big lump of desperation, apparently in agony over hunger. Your classic cartoon cliches with heaps of fun to play around with. Plus, there are flares of comic book style shadings for each character's introductions, as well as all sorts of poses, split screen effects, camera swipes for momentum, and funky cinematography along the way. A truly accurate adaptation for the feel and style of the original games. Though you may notice if you've seen any direct gameplay, it's not fully translated in the same aesthetic, as instead of using the cel-shaded designs of the games, this film was going for the more contemporary CG art direction approach. It worked for Ratchet, and you gotta admit it looks great, but maybe that's also because it fits the style of the games too. I personally think I'd like to see a project push for something different, lean into cel-shaded as well, but this is 2016, and we're only just varying from the CG standard now. Still, the others were on board, with the producer Brad FOXHOVEN claiming that they managed to nail the look and feel of the film within a few months of development. I guess it's up to personal debate. The global market can lean towards pure CG animated films. As much as we loved the cel-shaded look of the game, we felt it would not be held up by the big screen collectively. Alright, they also changed some of the designs, but it could be an early dev thing. Bentley has the wrong helmet, for example, looking more like a motorbike helmet than the one from the games, and he's the driver for once. But also, the teaser has entirely temp music underneath, meant to get the vibe of the idea, but not be the final draft.
We're too late! Not on my shift.
So who knows? As for the plot, the only thing directly quoted came from Vice President of Development at Blockade Entertainment, David Wohl, who confirmed that at the very least, it wouldn't be an origin story. Sly and the gang are already together, though they are far from being so great at what they do. There was also supposedly an official plot synopsis told, but the sources aren't concrete. Still, they're pretty vague. Sly Cooper is a kinetic and comedic heist film that tells the story of Sly Cooper, an orphaned raccoon thief, and the adventures of his childhood friends and partners in crime, Bentley Turtle and Murray Hippo. I know it's kind of obvious. Another description is a bit more on the nose. In the film, Sly learned that he comes from a long line of talented international thieves and is catapulted into a global adventure. Sly races to reassemble a piece of an ancient book holding the Cooper clan's family secrets before it can fall into the hands of Clockwork, an evil metallic owl bent on ending the Cooper family line. Now that's more like it. And this is your sneaky reminder to subscribe. And then it's WonderCon 2016, and Kevin Monroe is there. We can ask him about the project.
I don't think it's coming out this year. I'm standing by, waiting to jump on top of it. I'm just waiting for the phone call.
Oh, it had yet to enter production, and he doubted it would be released later that year? Oh, okay. The rumblings of delays had already begun. Let's get back to the crew side of things and the cast. Voice actors were confirmed now, with Bentley and Murray retaining their previous VAs, but Kevin Miller, who's been the voice of Sly Cooper across the entire franchise, was not asked to return, instead being replaced by Ian James Corlett, the voice of Goku, and the dad from Johnny Test, and Da Vinci in Little Big Planet. Again, a debatable choice. I mean, I get it, this is your central protagonist, so it makes sense to polish it into something more marketable, but I can't imagine how satisfying it is to just hear the characters you already know presented directly onto the big screen, same as they are. But I imagine both sides are valid, just weird to not fully dive in either direction. And alongside a series of design choices as well as the developers, it seems like there were a collection of complaints regarding the film, internally and externally, as the adaptation was getting a little rough, and tough decisions were being placed. Bringing us round to later in 2016, October 26th, when Monroe tweeted that he hadn't worked on Sly Cooper for over a year and a half. Not entering production during WonderCon was an understatement. The project was long dead. But why? It can't have just been the small complaints. Monroe, anyway, moved on, later choosing to create a Chinese Trolls film called Troll, The Tale of a Tale. Right. But in reality, the real nail in the coffin for the Sly Cooper project was the Ratchet and Clank movie. Because although I think it seems to be a wonderful spectacle that's glorious to see and the H'est of D's, it flopped. It was a commercial failure. People didn't see it, and by its second weekend, it had plummeted by 70%. And this is Ratchet and Clank, an IP far more in the public consciousness over Sly Cooper, right? If Ratchet can't make it in the cinemas, it's not looking good for Sly. And that was exactly it. President and Chief Creative Officer at Rainmaker, Michael HEFFERSON, now said, "I believe in the approach we went for with Ratchet and Clank, but the film's performance certainly makes us have to rethink timing, how we release, and even budget numbers that we consider releasing films at." Meanwhile, Cartoon Brew editor Armid Amidi expressed doubts that it would ever be completed. And yet, despite this obvious hurdle now popping up, the project reportedly entered development in early 2017. And then in June, Rainmaker tweeted that they are no longer working on the film, so maybe not. Actually, it wasn't a tweet, it was a DM from a curious fan. Still, we are no longer producing Sly Cooper. We may take part in its production in the future, but not at this time. Thanks for your interest. Oof. And in November 2017, all mentions of the Sly Cooper movie were removed from Rainmaker Studios' website, and the studio officially announced their departure from the project a month later, selling the rights to the IP to 4 other partners. But it's still not over yet. With the film dissolved, a TV series was announced to now be in the works. Forget a full feature voyage, now it's time for a series of 52 11-minute episodes created by Technicolor Animation Productions and and PGS Entertainment, the same people behind Sonic Boom. This television show was half scheduled to premiere in October 2019, with the remaining half coming out in July 2020. That sounds good. Now is to follow the trio as they steal and try to save Sly City while being on the run from Inspector Carmelita Fox, promising to retain that blend of action and humor the franchise is known for. There is no doubt that teenagers will be happy to rediscover their beloved games as a series, whilst younger kids will be charmed by the debonair raccoon and his exciting universe, said Cedrine Nguyen, managing director at Technicolor. But it also never premiered, the slow, sad whimper of the death of Sly Cooper. But not all hope is entirely lost. Sure, the last installment of a Sly game came in 2013, and the one before that was 2005, but we're in a new market. Video game adaptations are the thing. Yeah, it's been 9 years since Sly Cooper Thieves in Time came to PS3 and Vita, reviving after an 8-year hiatus, but if there's any hope remaining, it's from the fact that Sony, of all companies, is the figurehead producing a bunch at once. So there's always the chance, there's at least a chance, that eventually they'll loop around to recreating this project again. They have the motivation, and they've been into it in the past, plus they've left Sly on a cliffhanger, stranding him in ancient Egypt through some time travel shenanigans in the games. The developers may have moved on, but fans sure have not. But I guess we'll just have to see how the rest of the decade pans out for Sony, as they've now rolled out the PlayStation Production Studio since May 2009, dedicated to specifically this brand of adaptations, PlayStation games. But what do I know? I've never even played the Sly Cooper games. Could you tell? My name's been Dazz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.